Hi everyone, welcome back to our ongoing series on how to create a life operating system in Notion. Today's going to be a really important one. This one is on habits and routines. In our previous video, we looked at the annual review and planning process. And a big part of that process is laying out your goals for the year. As we've talked about in previous videos, there are two ways to achieve your goals. One is through setting up projects and tasks to move toward the accomplishment of your goals. And we have a whole system we've covered in previous videos on how to execute projects and tasks to achieve your goals. The other approach to achieving your goals is habits and routines, which is all about consistent small increments over and over, tiny steps repeated with great frequency that will have massively powerful results, which will compound and escalate with results that increase at an increasing rate over time. In other words, exponentially. But it all starts with a slow, steady commitment to delivering on those habits and routines. Today, we're going to look at how to develop a system in Notion that helps you execute on the habits and routines you want to achieve. For a quick note, sorry about the infrequency of posting lately. This is going to change. I am building the infrastructure now for an expansion of this channel. It's taking a little bit of time to expand my production capabilities in the studio here, but once we have that in place, we'll be able to expand the range of things we're covering and the range of formats with which we explore the Notion PPV system and the life and behaviors and system around the Notion design. And before we open up Notion, let's get some clarity on what we're trying to achieve with habits and routines. There are three stages or approaches to which people try to implement habits and routines. The first is they try to get motivated. Motivation is the first approach that many people try, and motivation of all of them is so short-lived. It burns off so quickly. Motivation will get you fired up for a day, a couple days, a week if you're lucky, but then it will burn off. It's basically the kindling to the fire. So kindling may serve you if it heats up and helps ignite the larger logs in the fire, but the kindling burns off so quickly, it doesn't get you very far. You cannot rely on motivation. No number of motivational videos is going to get you there to implement habits and routines. The next thing people try with habits and routines is willpower, just sheer force of will. That'll get you further than motivation in a lot of cases, but it won't get you all the way. It'll get you weeks, maybe a month if you're lucky, maybe even a couple months. But for most people, it's a matter of weeks. That willpower will persist and help you implement habits and routines. Ultimately, it's not enough to really make it part of your life. The third is identity, and this is where real lasting change happens in your life. When you implement a habit and routine that becomes part of your identity, you just take it for granted that it's who you are and what you do, and you don't even have to debate it, think about it. Once you get to that point, it's not a burden, it's not a chore, there isn't resistance. You just take it as a matter of fact and you just do it because that's who you are. This is the long-term foundational wisdom that's shaping your identity, sculpting your identity into the person you want to be. Part of that is bringing these habits and routines that strengthen you, empower you, and make you more capable. Folding those into your identity is ultimately what we want to achieve. But we don't want to set them becoming our identity as the goal. When you set the goal as, I want to be the kind of person who eats healthy and works out, or I want to be the kind of person who gets up early and starts work early, that doesn't really inspire. That doesn't really pull you in that direction. When you set your goals, and we have several videos on goal setting previously in the series, and we'll do more in the coming year, but you want to use your goals to maximum effect. And one of the powers of goals is that they can fuel you, to drive you, to push you towards the achievement of that goal. And if your goal is just, I want to become the kind of person who does X, Y, or Z, that's not much of a push. That's not much of a pull. The question is, why do you want to become that kind of person? Why do you want to become the person who eats healthy and works out? What is the reason for that? Once you paint that picture, and there are a wide range of them, maybe you want to live longer so you can spend more time with the people you love. Maybe you want to have a longer period of really productive high output. Think of the why behind why you want to become that kind of person. That why will fuel you and it will drive you and it will pull you toward it. You want to make it visceral. You want to make it as vivid as you can so you can touch it, feel it, taste it. You can close your eyes and visualize what life will be like when you achieve that. So the why behind the thing you want to become is the goal that you should set. Again, we have other videos on how to set goals, and we break them into two kinds of goals: value goals, which are aspirational, and then goal outcomes, which are measurable, quantifiable, and trackable. That's all in previous videos. But habits and routines are a fantastic way to get there, but setting a powerful goal that you can taste and feel will pull you towards that and help you achieve that, especially in the early days when you're trying to push through resistance. Now, before we dive into the Notion system for habits and routines, just wanted to mention we have opened the Year Zero Collective, an online community of people interested in Notion, pillars, pipelines, and vaults, personal performance enhancement, habits and routines, goal setting, all these things that help enhance our capabilities in life. If you're into that kind of thing, check out the Year Zero Collective online community at yearzero.io. And on a related note, I'll soon be relaunching the PPV Notion Performance Systems course. It is my flagship course on how to implement all these systems in your life in a more structured, streamlined way with the master PPV template. If that's of interest, you can check that out also at yearzero.io. Now let's open up Notion and take a look at how to implement habits and routines in your Notion system. This is the alignment zone. I have a whole overview of the alignment zone in a previous video, but here's where I access the habits and routines database. I do this within the pillar support toggle, and habits and routines is right there. And usually I'll either work with it right in here or inside my weekly or monthly reviews. From a Notion implementation standpoint, this is a very simple database. And it's become very trendy lately to show off Notion systems with fancy formulas, but doing backflips and jumping jacks and all kinds of gymnastic moves. But an objective of any system is to keep it as simple as possible. If you know how to use formulas, that's great. Put in little reward icons that pop up and give you visual rewards. If that motivates you. Frankly, that doesn't do anything for me. I want to keep it as visually clean as possible. I want to keep it as fewer properties as possible. I want to keep it as simple as possible so I can get in and execute. It's not about flashy emojis. That kind of reward system doesn't do anything for me. It's about clarity and transparency and a clear vision. So the habits and routines database has one objective, and that is to set your intentions for the habits and routines you want to develop. Now, one clarification on the term habits. These are not actually habits. And when productivity people talk about habits, they're not actually talking about habits. We're really talking about routines. Habits are things you do instinctively without any effort, without any resistance. You just do it as a matter of course. In many cases, it's part of your subconscious operation. But in the productivity and personal performance space, the term habit has been widely used interchangeably with routines, but let's just be clear. We're setting up routines with the hopes of it ultimately becoming something closer to a habit. It's not truly a habit, but we use the common terminology. So the mission here is to set our intentions. There is a separate database, our daily tracking database, where we have our habit tracker and we monitor our performance and we measure how successful we are at implementing these intentions. There's a previous video entirely on that earlier in the series. But here we're setting out clear intentions, and these are all the entries in this database. So this is not filtered by anything. If I remove a habit routine, I will typically just delete it. I'm not going to archive it. These are simple to add, simple to remove. I like to have just the ones that are active visible here. I delete and add and remove and tweak as desired. You should feel free to modify at any time. Though we do have routine periods in our weekly and monthly reviews where we're sure to reflect on and consider whether these are the right ones. That goes to the weekly and monthly review, which is also covered in separate videos earlier in this series. Now looking at properties, everything is turned on visibly in this table except for pillars. Pillars just attaches any of the habits and routines that clearly fit within a pillar. Pillars are also covered separately in another video and are an integral part of the pillars, pipelines, and vault system, of course. But this habits and routines database can stand completely on its own. You can use this independently of the PPV system, or you can use it integrated in the PPV system. Works just as well either way. This is one of the modules that really can be a complete standalone operation. And frankly, I think anyone using Notion should have a habits and routines database of some sort along these lines to clearly set your intentions. And what we're doing here is we're naming the habit and routine on the left. We're defining the frequency with which we will do it. We're defining the time of day in a drop-down selector. And these are in order of how we want them to appear because we are sorting first and foremost by time of day. So they're going to be in the order that we execute them on a typical day. Some of these like start and end are there to make sure that things like awake and go to sleep are at the very beginning and end. This is just how we organize it. But the ones in the middle are clustered together by their time segment. And we just go through them in order. There are big gaps in between these, of course, and that's where we do our deep focused work. It's where we schedule meetings. So this is not the schedule for the whole day. These are the routine activities that fit within specific slots within the day, and there are large gaps in between them. Next, we have a bundle. Bundling is a very effective way to implement habits and routines, especially if you have some strong habits and routines and you're trying to add new ones that are not yet very strongly established. So you'll bundle the newer, weaker ones with strongly established ones, and you'll do them together. So you'll do the strongly established one, and then you'll do the weaker, newer one immediately after, consistently. And by attaching them, it's easier to do the newer, weaker ones. Typically, I will bundle them by time of day clusters. So I have my morning kickoff bundle. I have my morning startup bundle, which is at my desk. Kickoff is first thing when I wake up, end of workday, and then evening wind down. So by clustering them, it's easier to get them done. It's easier to schedule them because some of these are pretty short and quick. Others are longer. The short and quick ones are too precise to put into your time blocking schedule if you're time blocking, or even a looser schedule. But by bundling them, the cluster or the bundle can be scheduled much more easily and stands out more as a significant milestone in your day. Bundling could be as simple as attaching one to another. Say you want to start meditating and you consistently eat lunch. Maybe you make meditation what you do immediately after lunch. So you've attached it and bundled those two. Or of course, as I'm doing here, you can bundle more of them. A super effective way to be more successful at your habits and routines. Then as I've said, there are two ways to advance your goals. One is through projects and tasks, which we have a whole pipeline section of this PPV system to implement on projects. The other approach to fulfilling goals is through habits and routines. So here we have a relational link to our goal outcomes database. As we've talked about previously, in the PPV system, we have two kinds of goals. Value goals are our aspirations. Goal outcomes are the measurable, tangible, trackable goals. And so we are attaching habits and routines that will advance these measurable, trackable goals. And we have clarity here as to which goals they're trying to advance. And then when we look at the goals database, we will see which habits and routines are pushing them forward and can make sure that every goal outcome has at least one habit and routine or project and isn't stuck or orphaned in a dead-end state. They're all advancing because they have at least one habit and routine or a project assigned to it. Typically, fitness-oriented goal outcomes will be better served by habits and routines, and a lot of the personal ones. Work ones tend to be better served by projects, but of course, there are exceptions to all that. And then finally, we have our Knowledge Vault relation, which is a relation to our Knowledge Vault. We have a whole module in the PPV system about knowledge management. Check out the previous knowledge management video in the Knowledge Vault video, which is also sometimes called the Knowledge Lab. That's where we aggregate our best thinking by topic, and all the best information and ideas on that topic is organized and sorted in a dashboard inside each of those topic categories in the Knowledge Vault database. And when a habit and routine is pertinent to one of those knowledge topics, we connect it through a relational link. So when we're doing our data tracking entries, that's related to the quantified self topic that I am interested in, and I track and I build information about. It could be as simple as fitness and health, as we see here. Here we have stretching and working out connected to those Knowledge Vault topics. Now this also serves as our master tag database in addition to being the Knowledge Vault. I think the Knowledge Vault is the big powerhouse of that database, but secondarily, it helps us organize everything in our system by topic so we can sort and filter by those topics. And when we look into the Knowledge Vault, we'll see all the elements across the entire system that are related to those topics. And therefore, we'll see the habits and routines by topic when we look inside those topic entries inside the Knowledge Vault / master tag database. And that's pretty much it. That's all there is. I don't think you need a lot of complexity here. In fact, I think complexity will hurt you. I think it will remove clarity. It will become a burden to maintain, and it will just get in the way. Keep your habits and routines process simple, including your habits and routines database. And then your execution will have greater clarity and less friction. This is all it takes. Very clear, highly intentional habit and routine practice. Then, of course, you need to execute. That goes into time blocking. That goes into scheduling. We always schedule the night before for the following day. All of these things will be scheduled in the following day. You got to think about when you're going to do them. And that's very easy to do because we have a time of day in sequence listing here. Some of these are perpetual. That's down here, say diet and nutrition. I have a certain diet and nutrition regimen. And then some of them are weekends only and they're not daily. Of course, some of these could be twice a week, 3 times a week. You define the frequency. It can be anything here. That's why this one is just a text column. So you have great flexibility as to the frequency. But when it hits one of those days, the time of day is predetermined here. The other advice I have is to make these as precise as possible. Be very clear on what it means. Now I have workout, and then separately I have a workout database where I have very specific workouts designed for each week that I go into. So inside these, you can open them up and you can have a lot of detail and specificity, even workout plans within these habits and routines. If you're defining specifically the habit and routine, you can open up the pages inside these databases to add more precision and clarity to what each of these mean. The more specific they are, the more effective they're going to be. And during any given week or month-long period, I will change the specificity inside these pages. And that's pretty much it. It doesn't need to be any more complicated than that. The key to habits and routines is consistency. That's pretty much the definition of it as well. But it all starts with clarity and knowing what your objectives and intentions are. That's what this database is all about. Throughout this year, I'm going to be doing more and more videos on topics that are about our behaviors around the Notion system, because the Pillars, Pipelines, and Vaults system is not just about the Notion design. It's equally about our behaviors that the Notion design is organizing and coordinating. And so much of that is done outside of Notion. So we're going to do a lot more videos on how to develop habits and routines, overcoming the resistance in terms of the psychology of implementing these, because it's easier said than done, but it all starts with clarity. That's what the database is about. So I wanted to cover the Notion component, and we're going to be doing a whole series of videos coming up on how to actually implement habits and routines. Similarly, mindset. Soon I'll have a video on the Notion component of mindset, and then we'll be doing a lot of follow-up videos on the human behavior and psychology around a mindset practice and how to shape your mindset. Identity sculpting is intricately connected to mindset, because how you view yourself is your identity. Your identity is not an objective thing that just is. Your identity is entirely how you perceive yourself. It's an issue of perception. It's not an issue of objective reality. So we're going to be doing a lot about the psychology of mindset and habits and routines in the upcoming year. This is just a kickoff so we could tie all that to the Notion system. If this is of interest, be sure to hit the subscribe button and the bell icon to get updates on future videos. Leave thoughts or questions below, or join us at my new online community for a broader conversation. That's at yearzero.io. And hit like if you found this video valuable. I also write a newsletter called Mind and Machine on increasing human capability. I give away several of my best Notion templates to anyone who subscribes to the newsletter. You can, of course, unsubscribe at any time, but I hope you'll give it a chance. I work super hard to pack it with a lot of valuable insight. The newsletter link is also below in the show notes. Thanks for watching. Lots more to come.